So anybody did any homework yet or still working on that?
My mom is not joined. Mom and Ariana have diligently done the homework.
Very good.
Mom, I just going to call mom 1 minute.
All right. Who wants to tell me what the homework was and what did you guys find out?
Well, the first homework was about how a tree lives. And so I wrote in my own words that I learned in my school days. So it's like a tree basically grows from a seedling into a sapling, which then grows into a huge tree. The roots of a tree, they grow firm and deeper into the soil and takes all the nutrients and water from the soil, transporting into different parts of the plant. And through the branches, it does that work. And with the help of the plant tissues, that is xylem and phloem, and xylem is helps in carrying water to the plant, to the parts of the plant, and phloem helps in carrying the food. And the main part of the plant which helps in preparing food is the leaves through the process of photosynthesis. And then it passes the food to other parts of the plant. That was the first homework. The second homework was about find out the qualities of the hand and the cause of God.
Hold on. Let me ask Ariana if she found that one, and then if she whatever she misses, you fill it in. Very good for the. And you see when you read on the how the tree works, one of the things that we really need to look at it as reality is that none of the parts live without the other. Right. So if we are the branches and the leaves, let's say if all the branches and the leaves die off, the root can put out new leaves sometimes, but if you keep on cutting the branches and the leaves consistently, the roots will finally die off. And that's why when you notice in certain parts of the writings, when Baha'u'llah says somebody wanted to take a machete to the root of the tree, right? So when you want to kill it at the level of the Bab and Baha'u'llah, or attack Abdul Baha and the Covenant and Shoghi Findi, then that's like you're getting it to that level, so to speak, and cutting it off. But once a growing tree, this whole idea of like our societies are battling who is more important and I should be more important. Nobody is more important and nobody is less important, you notice, right? Because all of our lives, physical and spiritual, depends on each other, right? Depends on each other. So you take any element totally out, neglect it, nothing lives, right? Everybody suffers. So always remember that the branches cannot be made without the leaves. They gave birth to branches, but without then branches, the leaves cannot continue to grow, right? So there is reason why Baha'u'llah has called us branches and leaves of the tree, the root of which is he himself, right? Ariana, I heard you did the homework too about, did you do the hand of the causes qualities? What did you find out?
Me and Nanima, we were doing the research.
Yeah.
We've still not yet reached, we are still researching. Like we have not yet found the answer, but we are still going through.
All right. Well, let's find out what Carmel found out, or Iman. Did you both do it, or just Carmel did the homework?
We both did it.
Iman, tell us what's the quality of the hand of the causes. What did you find out?
The qualities of the hand of the causes are to diffuse divine fragrances, edify souls of men, promote learning, improve character, sanctified and detached, fear of God by their conduct, their manners, deeds, and words, ever watchful, alert to anyone who opposes a guardian or claim authority.
So teaching and protection, right?
Yeah.
That was their job, teaching and protection of the cause. Now, these are not, well, you can deduce qualities of their character out of this, because if you're trying to improve learning in people, you must be learned yourself, right? If you don't know the if you don't know the scripture, how would you teach anybody else? And if that is your core job, then you must be really deepened. If your core job is to teach people to have an upright character, you must have an upright character yourself. So wonderful. However, the homework doesn't end yet, because there is a paragraph of their character, what kind of character a hand of the cause should have. And then, of course, by the same token, we should have that characteristic, because we don't have the hands of the causes anymore. There should be those qualities into the counselors and into the ABMs, because they're the one who are continuing their work, even though they don't have that station, right? But the qualities should be the same. So this is what you just read is, what is their job? This is what their job is. They should be doing this. So yes, we can deduce qualities out of it, but there is a paragraph of their qualities already mentioned in the writings for what kind of person, what kind of character they themselves are supposed to be. Meaning all of us supposed to be, of course, right? We read that in the Advent, that the rectitude of conduct, upright character, is required of every single Baha'i, but so much more so the ones who are serving the institutions, on the institutions, right? Why? Because we look up to them. They're forefront of the faith. People look at them first before they will know most of us, right? So because they interact at that level. So because they are in a sense your advertising screen of your community. So it's a lot more crucial. And once we know what their qualities are, then we are asked to always look, those who are the counselors and the ABMs, you can do nothing about it. That's assigned by the house. But the people who serve on the assemblies, local, national, and the House of members of the House of Justice themselves are our responsibility to elect, right? So if we elected the right institutions, if we elected the right people onto the House, then that House will make the right decisions. Make sense? If this was not necessary, Baha'u'llah wouldn't have built the system that way. Make sense? And often the Baha'is almost assume as if the House members just spring out from somewhere. No, the kind of House member is sitting up there is the responsibility of the Baha'i community. It's the Baha'i community that elects them, right? So, so there you are. So please find that. What is it that is called for, right? What is the character of these learned too? There's a paragraph of what a scholar is supposed to be, and so the hands and now the counselors, that side of institutions are called the learned, right? The learned in Baha. So what is the quality of a learned? And then when you meet them, do you find that, right? Do you find that? So when you meet the community, do you find those qualities? And so maybe you don't find 100% qualities in any one of us, any one of them that you meet around, but you choose who? You choose the one that has most of those, right? So they might not have all of that, but still we need to have a local assembly, right? So if there are 50 qualities, they might have 5, but the one who has 5 should be chosen over the one who has 4, right? So whoever you see so we must know what those qualities are. What was else? Anything else was homework?
You're supposed to find out about which para the guardian says about Afnan and Afsan.
Did you find out?
Yeah, I think it says Shoghi, yes, it's in Shoghi Fendi's letter to an individual believer. That's what I found.
Okay.
I didn't find the exact thing, but he says that Afnan means a small branch which refers to the relatives of the Bab, but not direct descendants of the Bab, because Bab didn't have any direct descendants.
Yes.
And then Aksan refers to a bigger branch, and it refers to the descendants of Baha'u'llah. And he says this in a light of, it is there in a light of guidance, like page 470.
I think wonderful. That's a good thing to learn. My question, however, was in the Aqdas. Which paragraph of Aqdas talks about people of Baha, learned in Baha, and anticipates the guardianship, which because another homework was to study the Aqdas during the fast, right? So those of you who did read it, that those few things are connected to the covenant. Because we were studying the Kitab-e-Ad, right? Because Baha'u'llah says, I've already said these things in the Aqdas. So find out in the Aqdas which paragraphs are referring to people of Baha, learned in Baha, anticipating the guardian. If you can find out which verses are anticipating the guardianship, I would be really impressed. The work is available out there. If you search right enough, you can see it now. But if we didn't have the work out there from Abdul Baha and other things, maybe we wouldn't have noticed those things. But since there is work available from the Guardian and Abdul Baha, we know which verses are talking. If you can find out, then we'll talk about that. And if you can, then we'll discuss that next time. Was that all for the homework? All right. So still continuing to learn what the character of the hands is and the scholars. All of those things are sort of one and the same. And which paragraphs of Aqdas talk about the people of Baha, learned in Baha. It is within those same pages where the guardianship is anticipated. I want you to pay attention to how. Why do we say the Aqdas anticipates the guardianship? All right. Any other comments, questions? Shall we move to our tablet? Okay, so we are doing Bisharat, starting on Bisharat, Glad-Tidings. Bisharat is actually, in English, we say when you say gospel or good news, that refers to the revelation, actually, right? In essence, that word was assigned to revelation. When the Quran says, when good news comes to you, even a liar brings it, it says, find it out. Because in the Quran, once somebody is established as a liar, especially if they lied about certain things, you don't accept their testimony ever again for the lifetime. So the liar is really punished that way. But in this sense, when the news of revelation is brought to you, even if it was brought to you by a liar, it says go investigate, because it might be true. The revelation would have come. And so because you don't want to listen to the liar, which the Quran says you shouldn't take their testimony, but in this case, because now you're trained to not listen to the liar, you might miss the opportunity that God has sent the new revelation and you didn't investigate it, right? So it actually, in a sense, then it's really binding on humanity. When somebody says that a new revelation has come, it's your job to investigate it, right? And then find out if the person was telling the truth or not. But you're not asked to just run with it because somebody told you that, right? So you go out and find out then. Where, when, what? Okay, Bisharat, glad tidings, good news, gospel. Who's first? What's the sequence today?
I sent it. It's from Z2A.
Okay, so Vijay is the last one.
This is the call of the all-glorious, which is proclaimed from the supreme horizon in the prison of
Supreme
Makkah.
horizon, right? Supreme horizon.
He is the expounder, the all-knowing, the all-informed.
Founder, the all-knowing, the all-informed. Expounder. Who else has this designation? The expounder in the faith.
Abdul Baha and the Guardian.
Very good, wonderful. Are they all-knowing and all-informed?
No.
All-knowing and all-informed is only God and his manifestation, right? And at the highest level, only God. The manifestation does not share an equal station with God. Always remember that. We're talking about hierarchy. At the highest level, everything known and all informed is only God. And then within the creation, the highest level of knowledge belongs to the manifestation of God, because they are the highest creation. Make sense? So even though they are the one who's expounding the word that God is giving, right? At this level, that is the highest level. Expounder is the manifestation, who's expounding what? He's expounding the revelation directly from God to him that is given, and he's telling us that. What is Abdul Baha and the Guardian doing? They're doing what is written to us, and they're expounding that. Make sense? They're not getting direct access to God. Guardian and Abdul Baha don't have direct access to God. Who has direct access to God? Manifestation only. Only, right? So when Guardian elsewhere says that he is under the guidance of Baha'u'llah and the Bab, right? We're all under the guidance of then the highest creation level because we don't have direct access above them. Make sense? All right. So Baha'u'llah himself is an expounder as well at the highest level. Go on, Vijay.
God, the true one, testified, and the revealers of his names and attributes bear witness that our sole purpose in rising the call and in proclaiming his sublime words is that the ear of the entire creation may,
Ear of the entire creation, not just Baha'is.
through the living waters of divine utterance, be purged from laying tales
Lying
and
tail.
lying tales and
Lying
become tuned to the holy, the glorious and exalted word which have issued forth from the repository of the knowledge of the maker of the heavens and the creator of names. Happy are they that judge with fairness.
that
O
judge
people of
with fairness. That judge with fairness. All right. Pretty straightforward. So we had studied that when we were doing the Igan, that one of the work of every new revelation is what? To clarify all the things that we misunderstood from the previous times, right? So because a lots of dust and lies get created over the centuries for what is it that the scripture was teaching. So when the next one comes, you notice that one of the very first thing he does is, no, you didn't understand this, you didn't understand this, you didn't understand this. You misunderstood this, you misunderstood this, you misunderstood this. You lied about this, you lied about this, you lied about this, right? So it's like your whole, like the Kitab-e-Igan is covering that. Or what was it? So there are many levels of that. Some of misunderstanding is because we just misunderstand. It's our knowledge or wisdom or outlook is limited. So because of that, there will be misunderstandings. And then there are purposeful lies. For example, when the leadership starts saying, oh, no, not this manifestation. This is not a manifestation. Don't look at him. And they start doing that kind of work. Those are creating lies. Right. So they're at level of lies and so forth and so on. So judge fairly. And then how does he do this? How does the manifestation teach us where we misunderstood and where were the lies? Does he say that because I say so? Is that what he does? He comes and say, well, you lied here, you misunderstood here. Why do you say that, sir? Because I say so. Is that how he teaches? No, right? How does he teach? And we are supposed to teach the same way as our master is teaching, right? So we have a lesser master among creation, which is the Abdul Baha, but we have a highest master, which is manifestation himself. And God and manifestation is our master, right? So when Baha'u'llah is teaching in a certain way, how does Baha'u'llah teach? We remember Kitab-e-Igan, right? How does he teach? He's teaching. What is his method? Jimmy?
Teaching through all the prophets of God.
He's teaching through their backgrounds, right? Abdul Baha says what? Teach them from their backgrounds. What is he teaching? Baha'u'llah is teaching us from our backgrounds. What is our background? Our background means our previous books that we believed in, right? Whatever we believed in. He never says because I said so. Even though he has the authority and we must obey if he even does that, but he never does. And he says, here's what the book was saying. How did you not understand this, right? He's quoting all the previous books. So when you're teaching, then the guardian said what in the Advent? It's your choice. You choose where you want to teach, how you want to teach. Nobody can dictate that to you. That's individual responsibility given to us by Baha'u'llah and right. It's a duty and a right to teach. Every individual has that. Nobody can bar you from it. It's your choice where and how, who to pick. And then guidance is given how to pick. But before you pick, what are we supposed to do? Prepare ourselves, right? prepare ourselves. So if you are going to decide that in your country, because you're a very multicultural and multi-religious country, you say, okay, I'm going to actually focus on the Hindu community of my community of friends, or I'm going to go with, I'm going to focus because I have Muslim friends, I'm going to go there, or I have Parsi friends, I'm going to go there, or whatever. Then what do? Then first of all, I mean, you have to be deepened in the faith to a certain degree for successful teaching, the Guardian says. And we already read that. Within few months, you can accomplish that actually, if you put your heart and mind and time into that. And then what do? You learn about what is it that their book says. And not just what their book says, but what is it that they believe out of that book. Both things are very important. Because most people, very few people actually really know their books. If you know the book, and then you know that, oh, this is the belief system that is being created in the community, that's what Baha'u'llah is doing. He's telling the guy that you have made mistakes here because your book is saying something else. Once you can bring that to table, that's what opens up a heart to say, oh my God, let's learn then, right? Because if they're really firm to say whatever they believe in, that's the perfect truth, and they do, la, 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 and don't want to hear anything. So how do you prepare it? If they have been believing wrong things, then you show it to them from their own book with respect and love. We love those books. Right? We love those books. So you're trying to bring that soul back to the book they believe in. To say, here, how do you justify these things? And once we learn that we have so much dust laden onto our knowledge, then we are willing to come to learning. Make sense? That's what Baha'u'llah was doing in the Kitab-e-Gan. All right. So, and plus fairness. That's the angle you take. When you're reading the scriptures and then you're saying what you believe, mostly if we are believing wrongly, it's really unjust belief system. It's always unfair and unjust when it's a lie. When it's a misunderstanding, wrong believing, and lying, it's always unjust and unfair. So if you know where the justice will stand, what the fairness will require, then you can dissect those verses against the wrong beliefs that we hold. Make sense? To them and ourselves too. We are not just here to teach them to do the right thing, right? That's secondary. First and foremost is what? My own correctness, right? My first injunction is my own correctness with my scriptures. If I'm crooked myself, I cannot bring anybody to straight path. It just doesn't work. All right, oh people of the earth, who's next? The first glad tiding.
O people of the earth, the first glad tidings which the mother book hath in this most great revelation imparted unto all the peoples of the world is that the law of holy war hath been
Law
blotted.
of holy war hath been blotted out from the book.
Glorified be the all-merciful, the Lord of grace abounding, to whom the door of heavenly bounty hath been flung open in the face of all that are in heaven and on earth.
So holy war is forbidden. Jihad of picking up the weapons to fight in the path of God with a gun or a sword is forbidden. Right? Abrogated. It was allowed in Islam. It was allowed in Judaism. It was allowed in Hinduism. Right? Some chapters allowed it, some chapters didn't allow it. So Baha'u'llah has abrogated that. So that's why you see that whole jihadi mindset doesn't work anymore. It only brings problems because God doesn't want it anymore, right? That time is gone. We still fight. We still wage war. With what? We are still soldiers. We still fight. What do we fight with?
We fight with our own selves and we conquer, we fight to bring ourselves up to the standards, and we fight, I mean, it's not fight, but we
The
try
word
to,
fighting is used in the writings. We are soldiers, we wage war, we fight.
the army of Baha, yes.
What? There's specifically two things, two weapons that have been given to us, allowed to.
Writing. One is
With thy
writing.
pen, with thy pen, and with thy tongue. Right? Conquer the cities of the hearts, and God with thy pen and with thy tongue. So that's where Abdul Baha says, bring your proofs and arguments and win the day, right? Win the day. So we, through talking, logic and facts and rational proofs, and through writing, defending, explaining, right? Those are the two weapons that are allowed to us. And the what do we write about and what do we talk about? We talk about and write about the word of God. Which word of God? All the word of God. From time immemorial to ourselves, all of them. We need to understand them, and we need to defend the word of God in purity, in truthfulness, and bring the masses to it, right? That's what our war is, with thy pen and with thy tongue. All right. There is many levels of the war, though, right? So even when there was a physical war, you train the soldiers and prepare them. Do you like grab somebody in the street and give them a gun and say, here, you go fight it? No. So if teaching work is a crusade and a war, then would you not prepare yourself? Would you then grab somebody on the street and say, go teach what? Right? So you see, it's like if you know what your job is, then you know what the steps are to get there. You just graduate from high school, somebody will make you a general manager of some place? I don't think so. Even if they do hire you for a position that you have never worked before, for some reason they believe you can do it. What do? Do they just put you on the desk and say, here, go ahead, you figure it out. And we're going to give you this wad of money for this work to be done? No. You either have to prove that you have the talent to do it, you have experience, or they'll have training for you to train you in those first before they hand you over anything to do, right? So why would we think that teaching work will work otherwise, or being a Baha'i would work any otherwise? Because I said so. No, it doesn't work that way, right? So there's a steps to preparing yourself. How do you get there? Okay, so holy war is blotted out. Go on.
Ryan, sir.
Go ahead, Ryan, go ahead, Ryan.
Did we finish the?
The second Glad-Tidings.
Okay.
It is permitted that the peoples and kindreds of the
Just a second, Ryan. On this one, the Baha'u'llah has discouraged total war as well, but the total war is not, all sorts of war is not abrogated. Defense to the countries is and would be still allowed, right? The future countries will have armies, but Baha'u'llah has discouraged the access of that issue or any aggression or going after people's territory or any of those reasons. The only one thing that is allowed is still and would be within this dispensation. We will see what the next manifestation does. If somebody does attack your country, then you would have an army to defend yourself. So only to that level we are supposed to be kept. The rest has to be police forces and stuff to keep the society safe. You will have the police and policing, but not these massive armies that are into conquering other things and all that. That is forbidden. Make sense? So if two countries are having a war right now, the one who is defending itself has the allowance to defend itself. The one who attacked without permission, they are the ones who are dead wrong. Make sense? All right. And elsewhere, Baha'u'llah said what? That all the nations should be united in such a sense. To some degree, we already started doing this, that the globe would be a federated state. All states will have combined forces and all that. And if anybody is an aggressor, everybody gets together and puts them down. No aggression against any other nation is allowed. But before we get there, there are steps to what Baha'u'llah says you must do, right? If you don't do those, but we want to have this end result, the end result doesn't happen without fulfilling the steps. So maybe that's your other homework at some point. Maybe not, you don't have to do it within next week, but next couple of weeks. Investigate this issue. What are the steps Baha'u'llah gives to build a federated globe? The globe has to be federated. It will be. We are seeing the signs of it as well. And the one glimpse is that the way America is, the way the USA is, right? It's a federated 50 states that live under federated system. We are 50 countries. We don't think that way anymore. We look at ourselves as one country, but we are 50 countries. United States of America is 50 countries that lives under a federated system. That's your model for the globe. So look at where Baha'u'llah says how to build a federated system, what things you need to implement for it to be able to be a federated government, right? So look into that. All right, next, second.
It's permitted that the peoples and kindreds of the world associate with one another with joy
Associate
and radiance.
with one another with joy and radiance.
O people, consort with the followers of all
Followers
religions
of all religions. Followers of all religions.
in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. Thus hath the daystar of his sanction and authority shone forth above the horizon of the decree of God, the Lord of the worlds.
All of the world. So remember, we all have right to believe whatever we want to believe. We have free will. Now, our belief system has consequences, of course, to what we believe and then what the consequences are. But it's a right given to us by God himself. I am allowed as a person to believe whatever I want to believe. Right or wrong, right? Right or wrong. I have the right. I have the freedom to believe whatever I want to believe. So when you take that to heart, let's say when Baha'u'llah says, associate with one another with joy and radiance. So it doesn't mean that you tolerate somebody or you begrudgingly accept them, right? You accept them as human beings, as part of your community, as your neighbors, as your friends, with joyful and radiance, even though you don't agree with what they believe in. But they have the right to believe in that. What we can do, what does Baha'u'llah says? If you have a better understanding, better knowledge, a better truth, a truth in your hand, what do you do with it? Put it on the table. What does putting on the table mean? You just, with radiance and joy, share it. With proofs and arguments, Abdul Baha says, share it. Bringing arguments to prove a logical fact or a truth is very different than arguing, by the way. We often misconstrue those two things and we say, oh, argument is not allowed. Argument is allowed, even called for in the faith, to bring it. Arguing with somebody is very different. Abdul Baha says what? If two people are arguing, both are wrong. Because there's no point in it, really. If your discussion has turned into a arguing sort of thing, now you're fighting to win, there's no point. Because you can't convince any heart doing it that way, right? So Baha'u'llah does not allow that type of, because when you say two people are arguing, there is a part of contention in there. Contention is not allowed. Teaching with proofs and arguments and logical and rational proofs, putting on the table with joyfulness and with respect to the other side. That's what is allowed. If they don't take it, you're not supposed to be angry and throwing a fit at them or whatever. You're asked what? Leave them to themselves, pray for them, right? So with joy and radiance. So even let's say you have a lots of Hindu friends, there's lots of Hindu denominations. I have Christian friends, there are lots of Christian denominations. Some are better, some are whichever way. He's not saying just this or that or the other. All religions. All religions, consort with them in friendliness and fellowship. Friendliness and friendship cannot be fake, by the way, right? If you're friends with somebody, you have to be sincerely friends with them. You have to be their well-wisher. You have to be sincere to them. right? So you cannot fake these things. Now, he's not asking you to be their best friend. That's a very different issue. Friendliness is a little bit different than being really friends with somebody. Two different hierarchies of that same element, right? We are supposed to be friendly with everyone that passes or crosses our path. Everyone, whoever they are. You make better, closer friends with some of them, not all of them. But whoever they are, we are friendly with them. And fellowship and friendship. All right. To followers of all the religion, you see that how this is a paradigm shift in humanity, because a lot of our contention comes from considering other people going to hell, or other people being kafir, or other people being infidels, and other people being whatever. If you think of somebody that they're so wrong that they're going to go to hell, you think you can sincerely be their close friend? It's just not possible. If you consider somebody consistently 24 hours 7 wrong, you don't build friendships with wrong people. Now, are there some beliefs that are wrong in the world? Yes. Yes. Everybody that people believe all sorts of things, everything is not truth. So why he's saying that? Because that matters between them and God. My job is to care for them. My job is to know the right thing, to have the right ways of teaching and talking and consorting. Put it on the table and see if the world comes around. Besides that, I am friendly to them. Third. Make sense? The third glad tidings.
Concerneth the study of diverse language. This degree hath formerly streamed forth from the pen of the Most High. It behoved the sovereigns of the world, may God assist them, or the ministers of the
Sovereigns are the kings, right? Kings of the world. Sovereigns of the world. May God assist them.
or the ministers of the earth to take counsel together and to adopt one of the existing languages
One of the existing language.
or a new one to be taught to children in schools throughout the world, and likewise one script.
Whole world, right? Throughout the world, the whole world. And likewise, one script, one writing and one speaking. One way of writing and one speaking, one language.
Thus, the whole earth will come to be regarded as one country. Well is it with him who break, hearken,
Comes to it. Hearkeneth means you come fast towards something.
into his call and observeth that whereunto he is bidden by God, the Lord of the mighty throne.
So this paragraph is command. These are commandments, by the way. Commandments to humanity, right? From God. So initially, Baha'u'llah said, you can have your mother tongues and have another language that is taught to everybody like you in India, you have Hindi as country language, right? And English too as official language. So you have your own mother tongues, which is perfectly fine. And then for going to school, you have to learn Hindi and English to be able to study and to communicate with the rest of them who have other languages. This one is saying one language, and it already was in the Akdas too, by the way. These tablets were revealed after the Akdas. So he's stressing some of the things that were already revealed. But in the Akdas, towards the end of it, Baha'u'llah says, yes, we were allowed to have two, your mother tongue and whatever else, but it's better for you to only have one. All right. So you see how the world is abrupting about how my tribal language is more important too, and how my tribal culture is more important too, and how my tribal this and how my tribal that. And God has already 180 years ago said, I don't care about those things. When God doesn't care about something, you can never get it implemented, by the way. It only will bring hardship to you. It will only bring hardship to you if you keep on fighting that, right? So why is such tribalism abrupting in the world? when we are finally called to actually a global unity, right? And so the world will come through that. We will learn that our knees are getting bloodied, but those things don't work anymore. Because there is two level of failure to the world. One is that the world did not hear and adhere to the new revelation. The answers were there. The answers have been given to our troubles 180 years ago. If we had followed, we wouldn't have most of our troubles today. We would have troubles, but there were some new kind. We're still struggling with the troubles that the world has created for last thousands of years. Or we are still curating the troubles that came to us through the previous Adamic cycle. We haven't even started making the new cyclical problems that will come up with once we have what Baha'u'llah said is. It will create its own side set of problems, by the way. That's the nature of the world and universe and life. But we wouldn't have these problems. These problems are the ones that are accumulated last few thousand years. We're still struggling with those, even though God has given the answers to it, right? So those things won't matter. We have those attachments because we are prejudiced towards other things, and those are false attachments. A language is supposed to be a tool. Why does it become so dear to me that as if it's my mother and my father and I can't walk away from it? It's a tool for communication. Simple. Do you get so attached to your hammer or your nail that you will want to kill people for that? It's my hammer. I cannot let go of my hammer. I'm in love with my hammer. No. Right? So these are tools for life. And so anyway, so all of that my people type of thing goes away because all of you are my people. Everybody's my people. It's one people. Right? Go on. Fourth. So on the side note, by the way, we nobody has chosen or created. There was something that was created, but it didn't take off and kind of died off. Esperanto was a new created language in the last century, but it actually didn't really take hold. So what is being by default, there is a language that is being taught all over the globe now, even though the leadership did not choose it in that sense. But one leader did. Do you know that? Do you reflect on that? So Baha'u'llah is saying either the kings of the world or the ministers of it, two different type of rulings, right? Rulers should get together and create one or choose one. None of these guys have, but a language had been chosen and is being taught all over the world quietly, and nobody talks about that much. Which one?
English.
English. Who chose it?
The Guardian.
Guardian, yes. When the Guardian chose English to use as a mode of interpretation for the writings, right? In a sense, he immortalized it. Because we'll have to study the Guardian's writing. The guardianship lives in the Guardian's writings. It's integral part of the writings. We cannot live without them. They're binding on us. And they won't go away until the next manifestation. They will never go away, by the way, but because those writings will exist. But by the next manifestation, we don't know which turns we will take and which way the globe will go after. That's his doing. Until then, everybody must study the Guardian. The Guardian's in English, right? The Guardian debated between French and English, by the way. You know that, right? Yeah. Guardian was fluent in French. Guardian was fluent in Persian, Arabic, Turkish, and French and English. Guardian was fluent in all of those languages. So when he sat down and decided which language he should use to translate the writings, to interpret the writings for us, he debated between French and English, and he did some work in French and then he chose English. Because of that, English has become an integral part of our writings and our faith, because we cannot do without the Guardian. Make sense? So it's actually by default in one sense, but by the choice of one king, he's above kings for for the faith, right? The guardian would have been higher than the kings, all the kings. The kings will bow to the guardian won't bow to the kings, right? So he's higher station than them. He chose that, and it's literally been, he didn't ask it, but you go to the remotest parts of China in the villages and they are teaching English. You go to the remotest villages in India, and those who have means, they're trying to learn English. You go to the remotest villages of Pakistan, where people have very little food to eat, but those who want to promote their kids into better life, they're trying to teach them English. It has by default become the language of the globe, as a second language of the globe. So, all right. The fourth glad tidings.
The fourth glad tidings. Should any of the kings, may God aid them, arise to protect and help these oppressed people, all must vie with one another in loving and in serving him.
Loving and serving him.
This matter is incumbent upon everyone. Well is it with them that act accordingly.
All right, pretty straightforward. The fifth glad tiding. Again, Baha'u'llah has anticipated that by saying so, that it's one of the best way of government. That's an anticipation that it will come back. So the power from the kings were taken away, and the ecclesiastical religious leadership, the authority and the power was taken away from them, not the designations, right? The same words is used for our scholars that was used for mullahs and ulamas in Arabic. But what's taken away is that none of those individuals, their interpretations or understandings of the faith have authority over me. They too can bring in their facts, bring in their arguments and proofs, and show me that what they understand is better understanding, more fair understanding than what I had, but they cannot forcefully implement that onto me. No one can, right? Even the house has no authority to interpret. The authority of interpretation ended with the guardian. And Abdul Baha and the guardian's interpretations are authoritative and binding, right? So, so here he keeps on calling on the kings. This is after the Aqdas. So Baha'u'llah said what? That constitutional monarchy. Implement the constitutional monarchy. And he said, who is the example of that? We have an example of that in the world, and he calls on that and praises it. Who is that?
Britain.
Britain, yes. The British constitutional monarchy, he says, on that model. Their model is better, right? So I think we had a long discussion on this issue in one of our sessions already. So go on. Fifth glad tidings. By the way, all of these are the topics of your investigation of what a federate state will look like. Just a hint. All right. All of these are integral parts of it for what a federated globe would look like. All right. Some of the things we cannot tell. The time will tell, because some of the details will emerge, and we are not there. We can't see so much far out in the future. But what I'm saying is what's already been given in the writings, that these are the elements that need to come in place. Those we should know. Make sense? Go on.
In every country where any of these people reside, they must behave towards the government of that country with loyalty, honesty,
and truthfulness. We are supposed to be loyal to the governments we live under, wherever we are at. These people means Baha'is. It's enjoined on all humanity, by the way, but first and foremost on the Baha'is, right? So when the law of God descends, the believers are the ones whose first duty it is to abide by it. But that law, same as gravity, actually works for everybody. Whoever breaks the law gets the consequences, even though they don't believe in it and they don't know it yet. Make sense? And the law of God, I often say, law of God works like gravity. right? Law of God is the world is round. The world was always round. 1,000 years ago, we killed people who were saying the world was round because people thought the world was flat. Even if the whole humanity believed the world was flat, the world was not flat. Make sense? The difference, that's how the law of God works. Law of God doesn't work because I believe in it. Law of God works because it works, period. If I believe in it, my own life works better because of the law. If I don't believe in it, my life breaks down because of the law. But my belief does not make it valid. It's valid. Same as the world is round. Gravity is here. You can deny gravity every day, but you fall and scrape your knees. Gravity works. It's here. It does not depend on my belief, right? So that's why the Bob said that if nobody believes God, you think that he wouldn't exist? God exists. His existence does not depend on my belief. The comfort and properness of my life depends on that belief. My life, not his. He exists. Right? Go on. Loyalty, honesty for the institutions. Do you see how wrong our lives are, by the way? We don't, this one is something that at large the Baha'is fail to adhere to. Yes, we are law-abiding citizens, but we are supposed to be well-wishers of our government too. We bicker a bit too much, right? So if your governments are doing wrong, you have the right to address it in the proper means that are allowed to you. By the proper means that are allowed to you within the writings and within your governments, right? So whichever country you live in, it has certain way of how do you address issues, right? Whatever legally is allowed to you. Well, some of the legalities they allow are actually not quite allowed to us. Or legality or religious legalities are quite a bit tighter than that, right? Several countries will allow people to go out and be screaming and yelling and doing whatever. Baha'is are not allowed to be screaming and yelling and cursing and swearing at each other, even though your country's legality might be okay with that. So, or your standards are higher than those, but definitely not to break any standards that the countries have, right? So every country has some way of addressing things. You can write letters, you can say this, that, or the other, you can go meet somebody, you can come to the thing. All of that is allowed to you. Whatever your legality allows to you is allowed to you, right? But not breaking it. And we are supposed to be well-wisher of them. Pray for them, he says, the rulers. And just because we are well-wisher doesn't mean that they're doing everything right. But without this loyalty and stuff, the system breaks down, by the way. Systems are breaking down because we are not loyal. Everybody's complaining about everything. Every household wants to run the world in their way, and it cannot be done. It only brings chaos. All right, go on.
This is that which hath been revealed at the behest of him who is the ordainer, the Ancient of Days.
So he's saying God is telling you to be loyal to your countries, to your government, to your governments. It is binding. Go on.
Do you want me to read the whole thing or next person?
I read the whole thing, lead each one glad-tidings.
It is binding and incumbent upon the peoples of the world, one and all, to extend aid
Oh,
unto
one and all.
to extend aid unto this momentous cause which is come from the heaven of the will of the ever-abiding God, that perchance the fire of an animosity which blazeth in the hearts of some of the peoples of the earth may, through the living waters of divine wisdom, and by virtue of heavenly counsels and exhortations, be quenched, and the light of unity and concord may shine forth and shed its radiance upon the world.
So
Which
anarchy is not allowed to anyone, believer or non-believer. All the peoples of the world. All the peoples of the world, right?
we cherish the hope that through the earnest endeavors of such as are the exponents of the power of God, exalted be his glory. The weapons of war throughout the world may be
Weapons of war throughout the world may be converted into instruments of reconstruction.
and that strife and conflict may be removed from the midst of men.
So the Old Testament prophesied that when the promised one comes, which is the second coming of Christ, that the instruments of war would be turned into the plowshares for the fields, right? These are the laws that are creating that future, right? Your fellowship with all the people in friendliness is actually a command and an instrument that is creating that peacefulness for the future, right? Because that's one of the reasons that humanity fought among themselves over each other's belief system, right? Baha'u'llah took that away. You're friends with all of them. You're friendly to all of them. So a major reason of war has been taken away from our hearts, right? I can love my country, but I love the world. So yes, you can be Indian, you can love India, but you love the world. Taken away the animosity that makes that anger in the heart to say, I'm going to take up weapon and kill my neighbor on the other side, that is whoever. It might be Pakistan, Nepal, or whatever, right? I still love my country, you still love your country, but we love each other too. So that animosity, that anger thing, that disease has been taken away from your heart, that starts war. Make sense? So when you look at these commandments, all of these commandments are the anger tool taken away from human hearts that then ends up in war, right? Next, sixth glad tidings.
The sixth glad tidings. The sixth glad tidings is the establishment of the lesser peace,
Lesser peace.
details of which have been formally revealed from our most exalted pen. Great is the blessedness of him who upholdeth it and observeth whatsoever had been ordained by God, the all-knowing, the all-wise.
And in brief, its features were that this was the job of the governments. Baha'is were not building the lesser peace. The Baha'is are building the faith and community. So by the way, every time you teach a person who becomes a Baha'i, you actually have helped to create the lesser peace and the golden age. Why? Because now that soul doesn't hate the neighbor. Now that soul doesn't hate the other religions. Now that soul wants to live in peace with all the people of the world and respects and is friendly to all of them. So, right? So you created another little soul that is working towards that peace that we all want. That's what teaching is, right? That's what teaching is. If you understand why we are teaching, then it actually, the Guardian said what? It should be what? Passion of your life. All consuming passion of your life should be teaching. And when you understand what that actually means, it does become that. It does become that. Because we do want people to love each other, no? And so just by saying love each other, that doesn't get accomplished unless you actually believe in the tools that are given to you to how to accomplish the love. Where are your rights? Where are your responsibilities? Once we learn all of that, then it's easy task, right? Ask just somebody in the street that is very sort of politically motivated people on both sides. Let's say in an Indian street or in a Pakistani street. Just stop somebody and tell them to love, stop somebody in India and tell them you should love Pakistan. They will smack you. You say the same thing to a Pakistani in the street who has nothing, no knowledge, nothing, and they're just living that political life of 70 years against each other. You say that thing to them, they'll do the same. Right? But you know the person that is walking in the street is a Baha'i and you ask them that, what is their response? Of course. Of course. Do you think you have sold India to Pakistan? No, you still love India. And you even love India a little more than Pakistan, maybe, and should maybe. But you understand that you don't have to take up the weapons to kill the other side. And a Baha'i walking in the street in Pakistan will give exactly the same answer. You repeat that thing to them, they'll say, of course. Right? So if we can bring every heart to that end, every American feels that way about Russians, and every Russian feels that way about American. Every Palestinian feels that way about the Jews, and every Jew feels that way about Palestine. What kind of world we would have? That's what the teaching work is. Right? Go on.
The seventh glad tidings. The choice of clothing and the cut of the beard and its dressing are left to the
Clothing and cut of beard.
its dressing are left to the discretion of men.
Left to the
But
discretion of men.
But beware, O people, lest ye make yourself the playthings
Lest
of
ye
the
make yourself the playthings of the ignorant. All right. Very important. This is the Akdas. Baha'u'llah is repeating that here again. When he says men in this place, he means humanity, men and women both. Right? The Guardian has explained these things. So you can choose to whichever way you want to wear and what you want to wear. But so what is how do we not make ourselves plaything of the ignorant? There's an answer in the writings to that, what that means. Because when I was first time reading the Akdas, I was consistently asking these questions, and then by the next paragraph, you have the answers, because God knew you'll be asking these questions, right? So what is, because if we are a global society, every culture, every country has their own standard, right? So how do we go about them? Someday when it is very established, long time global society, federated global society on this globe, things will change. But in the first few hundred years, let's say if it became federated tomorrow, it will take us still a couple of hundred years, where now you are saying that all these countries are under one government, and they're states rather than the way the United States is, right? Because we don't think ourselves as 50 countries, but in essence we are. We still are in essence 50 countries, but we don't feel that way. That takes time, right? That takes time. So what is then? What is the playful thing of the ignorant? Baha'u'llah has answered this too, and the Guardian has explained. Anybody's looked into that? Whatever the upright minds of your place, your culture and country consider bad, don't do those. Right? Every culture have standards of decency. So we are supposed to follow the standards of decency where we are. Now, does that mean that I'll wear burqa in Iran? Well, if they beat me up in the streets and I cannot go out without it, yeah, even Baha'is, well, when they go out in the streets, they'll do it because the country requires it, even though it's wrong. And even though for Baha'is it's abrogated, right? For Baha'is, the covering of that kind is abrogated, meaning I should not do it. But the country implements it. My first job is to be obedient to the laws. If the law requires it outside there for me, then I'll do it. Make sense? So if you go out in a very short skirt and a sleeveless sort of little top here, nobody really cares much. But if you do that in many countries, in most countries in the world, in Asia, Southeast Asia, anywhere else, that will be sneered upon. So just because Americans are doing it or American movies are doing it does not mean that you can do it. Make sense? So every place has standards of decency. Follow those. The second glad tidings. And it took care of a huge, long-standing issue, by the way, right? Because for Muslims, wherever they went, they wanted everyone to dress in one single certain way. And that created hardships for people. And it's now creating heartaches for the people. But it had no bearing in the Quran for that. The Quran didn't say that you should be wearing Arab dress wherever Islam goes, right? But they ended up implementing those kind of things. So this takes care of very long, centuries old problems. Go on.
The eighth glad tidings. The pious deeds of the monks and priests among the followers of the Spirit, upon him be the peace of God, are remembered in his presence. In this day, however, let them give up the life of seclusion and direct their steps towards the open world and busy themselves with that which will profit themselves and others. We have granted them leave to enter into wedlock, that they may bring forth one who will make mention of God, the Lord of the seen and the unseen, the Lord of the exalted throne.
Right. So in particular, this addresses the Catholic priesthood and some of the other religions. Some of the denominations have the same thing, that the priesthood or religious leaders, whichever by name they call them, were not allowed to marry or living in seclusion. None of the older scriptures have called for this, by the way. It's a man-made phenomena. This whole seclusion issue, that you want to be really righteous and really serving God only, and the Bible, the New Testament doesn't say people shouldn't marry. Right. But because Christ was crucified before he got married, they said, okay, we should just live like in his example. It was their decision that they made it that way. Christ didn't ask them for that. Makes sense? So the first disciples, the 12 apostles, many of them were married with children. Some of them were not. But because Christ himself was not married by the time he was killed. So they took his example and they decided they wanted to do that. And then it grew so much that you have all sorts of things. You have a lots of Buddhist priests, a lots of Hindu priests will get into that kind of asceticism. Asceticism is forbidden both in the Quran and the Baha'i writings, quote unquote, clear cut. But it was never asked for before either. Right. So Baha'u'llah is saying that, yeah, you did that, and we appreciate that you did that because they did it in the love of God, but don't do it. Right? Don't do it anymore. So that is, and you notice that the churches and priesthood of the world has changed, right? Because people have started complaining about these issues, and those who are strictly implementing that are having other issues with it. You would have heard the whole Catholic Church priestly scandals a few years ago, right? So yeah, so when you do things that God doesn't want, it only creates problems. It does not solve anything. All right, let's stop here. Farzana and kids have to travel, and I am quite, there was a, just a second, hold on.